So now we're going to talk a little bit about our experience at our 2 Underground Railroad stops. Margaret, you had something you wanted to share with us about it.
Oh yeah, so the school store one was a little creepy, so if you could lower the creepy level, that would be good, but then I like the other stops too.
Okay, tell me why it was creepy.
Well, it was really dark, and everybody was going ahead, and so I couldn't really see, and so it was kind of creepy because I didn't know which way to turn, and then when the door was locked and we had to go the other way, and then some mom was in like the other little corner thing, and she said like don't come in or everything, and that was really creepy. And, yeah.
So do you suppose though that the teachers arranged it to be creepy because we wanted you to experience it as closely as possible? Exactly. Other thoughts on your experience? Lauren?
I thought it was pretty, I thought it was really graphic because you could actually see how a slave's life was, and it said, like Margaret said, it was really dark, and you only had like a tiny flashlight thing, and you couldn't see anything, and we heard somebody coming, and people jumped out at us. They were probably slave owners, so we had to hide.
So Lauren, do you think that being a enslaved person on the run, escaping, was a fun game type of activity?
Yes.
If you were a real slave, you think it would be a game?
No.
Not at all. And what the teachers wanted to do was to create it so that it wasn't a game, because there's nothing fun or gamish about someone who was considered property escaping, right? Caroline?
Well, I thought it was like sort of cool, and you sort of learn to like rely on people sometimes, because like, you know how you said that usually you don't travel in groups, so it was harder and easier to get caught. And so when we broke up into different groups, some people were like trying to help, which was really nice of them. And then when we learned how like it might be scary and how sometimes you think it might work, like when you did it, but it actually didn't, so you have to find another way.
Right. Kai?
The only thing, I liked all of the stops. I was just thinking people were a little too noisy. So if that was a real slave, they would have been easily caught.
Exactly my point. You picked up on it.
Thank you.
Kai, you picked up on it. That's why I said even if we're running in a huge group, stomping like buffalo will definitely get you caught, won't it? Kai, that's a great observation. Eve?
Well, I really liked when we went to the school store because it was like twisting and turning, and I like how we had to squeeze in small spaces because since I was in the back and everybody, there was some space behind there, but it was funny because I had a little bit of space and everybody else was squished, and if one person like even moved their finger, it could have poked out, so I thought that was fine. I kept telling people to scooch back.
And do you think that's probably how it was, right? It wouldn't be like a painted tunnel to walk through with lights and what have you.
Pitch black.
Irene?
Well, I thought both the stops were actually really cool, except I don't know how, but I think that we were a little loud too. And something that I would change is you might need to get more blankets for the barn, or you have to like get them all like seated in a special way or something, because not everybody gotta hide.
So let me follow up on that. Do you think that Mr. and Mrs. Coffin could predict the number of slaves that were coming?
No.
And most of the time it wasn't a group this big, right? So probably that number of blankets would have been enough for a normal size or 1 or 2 people. But what do you think would happen? Do you think they'd giggle and jump on each other and holler about how crowded they are? No, they would make it work, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Grant, what are you thinking?
I learned that the most common place to hide slaves are in a barn or a shed or something like that.
In secret rooms, right?
Yeah.
Neil?
I think you should have more stops along the way because there were like only 2 stops and that was pretty short. But I like the school store better because it was all dark and stuff.
A little bit more authentic, maybe? Lane?
Well, I thought, so the school store one was pretty cool, actually, because we got to know how they got through the Underground Railroad. They had to, like, stay in really tight spaces, and sometimes they were even smaller than that. And I liked how she made the tunnels, like, look really real. And when we came out and we went into the door that was, like, locked, we had to go back, and I liked how you guys made it look really, really scary, and so we would know how they actually went.
Yeah, right. Louise, did you want to add something?
Well, yeah, I also liked the school store the best because it had the most like things that you could like go through and stuff. Because the Coffin's house, it was more of just her kind of talking to us, and it was, but like also with the Coffin's house, it was a smaller. There was one very small place that we couldn't fit through. But I also liked how you guys made the school store look like scary.
Do you think that a group of slaves would care if the space was small?
No.
Do you think they cared more about being safe?
Yes.
And probably warm? And she provided you with food and beverages, right? And she showed you in her basement that they had a kitchen set up and there were secret rooms for sleeping. I haven't heard from Juliana.
Well, I found like both of them very realistic because it showed how dangerous it could be and like how like dark it can be and how difficult that some people can be very helpful and some people can be very dangerous, and that like it doesn't really matter if you're like in tight spaces. That's what they had to go through to be safe.
You got it.